Hello, everyone, and welcome to a Roll20 tutorial. I am Ebia. I run three D&D games, two which uses Roll20 and one in real life. Sorry about that. And I am here to do a tutorial on how to create one's character using Roll20. So, as we start out, I'm not sure if you guys can hear a little bit of ambient background music, but that's okay. As we start out, if you're DM, this is Roll20, by the way. I will say this: signing up is free. You do not have to pay anything whatsoever. Um, if you are a DM 10 to 1, you will most likely pay for something like map tiles and books that work with Roll20. You can, however, enter things manually if you have a physical copy of a book, or if you have said books on another site like D&D and Beyond. This is basically the world that I have built. It is only a part of it, and let's get started, shall we? So, your DM hopefully should have given you a character sheet in your journal. Now, your journal is what this icon is right here. It is between the art library and compendium, and when you click it, you can see that there are two character sheets right here. Ignore everything else that has something completely different. So we're going to click on tutorial, go to character sheet, and click use the character mancer. Now, one other thing before we get started, you would want to click the chat bubble to bring up this chat room. Now, it is important that this is up here because it allows you to see roles that you have made. Case in point, looking at Herman Chaville. Now, you can hide this by clicking this button right here to widen the screen, but it's recommended to have it open. But you can bring it back by clicking this button here as well. Also, one other thing to note if you are starting on Roll20, I heavily recommend going to audio and video for the settings. Or text chat options. This will and just essentially just turn off everything except maybe the avatars if you like it. For video display, I have names only due to my streaming. If you want to do small, there we go. There's small, regular, and large. I have this open with my streams, but for now it's only name only. You can change your display name as well with your character pop-out windows and whatnot. But that's not what we are here. Sorry about that. We are here for the character creation. So this is the character mancer. So first up, we want to start off with our race. Our race is basically what we are. Are we human? Are we dwarf, elf, loxodon, Aarakocra, Aasimar, Genasi, bugbear, centaur? Why have we bugbears? But the point of this is that we will make a character. Now, let's just pick. If you see this character list, you will see stuff in parentheses. Now, these are for the names of the books of said races in. For Aarakocra is Mordenkainen's Monsters of the Multiverse. VG1 is basically Volo's Guide. ERLW is Eberron. Rising the last word, I think. GGTR is Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica. I forgot what MOOT was. FTOD is Fizbin's Tome of Dragons. And PHB, which is very important, PHB means Player's Handbook. If you are DMing or if you want to start out with D&D in general, 10 to 1, you will most likely purchase the player's handbook for your first ever book. Oh, MTOF is Mordekainen's Tome of Foes. So there's also one called the Owlin, which is SCC, which is Strixhaven's Curriculum of Chaos. But for now, let's just go with. Oh, MOT is Mystic Odyssey of Theros. As you can tell, there's a lot of races, so it is very daunting. But trust me, everything is very simple once you know how. So for this, let's just do a PHB book. You know what? I'm going to do Tiefling because I personally love Tieflings. They are my favorite race. So now that we have our Tieflings, we have alignment, creature type, we are humanoid, size, medium. Most races are medium. They never really go to huge or giants. Some will be small. Our speed is for our walking speed. We have a speed of 30 feet. Yes, this is in feet. I'm in America. What do you expect? And we have two language proficiencies. We have Common and Infernal. So Infernal is basically the tongue of demons and devils. Common is basically English. We also have Hellish Resistance, which means we resist fire damage, so that means we take half damage from fire. We also have Dark Vision, where we can see in the dark up to 60 feet, as if it was dim light. However, we cannot discern colors in darkness. And if it's dim light, then it's basically brightest day. Now, a lot of races, not all, but a lot, will have a sub-race. In this case, when Mordekainen's Tome of Foes came out, a bunch of Tiefling sub-races came out. So these sub-races will basically augment your standard race. Probably the best example for a sub-race is I am a human, that is my main race, but my sub-race is basically Asian or Russian. And because of that, I have fairer skin and blonde hair as a example. In this case, let's go with Dispater. Now, for alignment, it's basically telling you, hey, are you good? Are you evil? Are you neutral? What kind of good are you? What kind of neutral? And what kind of evil you are? I personally don't really do the alignment system, so I typically go with neutral. I find it also a little bit more flexible. But if things are like an extreme twist, say, all right, so neutral party, you see a bunch of mind controlled, a bunch of civilians that may or may not be mind controlled. What do? I go up and kill them. You are neutral. That is a little extreme. You would be more evil aligned. But once again, I don't really do neutral, but if something like that happens, typically you want to try to dissuade the party from doing that, but then you probably get caught for railroading. But that would I do not have like a scenario plan if that had happened, which it did. So because we are a Dispater, we have a sub-race ability score. So ability scores are usually linked to your race. So we have a +1 to Dex, Theory, and a +2 to Charisma. And because we are related to Dispater, we know a couple. We know a thaumaturgy cantrip. I'll get into this later. And when we hit 3rd level, we will get a spell called Disguise Self. And when we hit 5th, we will be able to use a spell called Detect Thoughts. We can only use it once for every long rest. And the long rest is basically 8 hours of downtime. So we got our race, we got our sub-race, and now we come with the class. So I'm going to I will pick a the most simple one, fighter. Now, with classes, we have artificer, barbarian, bard, cleric, druid, fighter, monk, paladin, ranger, rogue, sorcerer, warlock, and wizard. Ignore custom. We're only following PHB, Tasha's Cauldron of everything, as well as Eberron. Now, generally, if you're brand new, you want people recommend going with human race and the fighter class because it's very easy to get a hang of, and there's not a lot of in-depth mechanics. The hardest class, and I actually do agree with this, would be Druid. The reason being is because Druids can turn into animals, so you're basically juggling two different character sheets, your own and the animal that you turned into. So Druids are definitely a little bit more advanced. So for right now, we're going with Fighter. I won't go too in depth with the classes. For now, we're just making our character. So what I like to do is I like to go to the background tab before I proceed. And the reason for this is because whenever you pick a class, you have skill proficiencies, which is skills that you are really good at. But your background also gives you skill proficiencies. And picking your background first, in my opinion, will allow you to pick your class proficiencies when and they will not conflict with each other. So this is a massive list of backgrounds. We're not going to go into detail. Let's just say because there's a lot. Also, Roll20 is not. While I love their character creator, it is. If you could tell, if you can't tell, it's a little hard to read because it's a very tiny window. So in this case, let's go with soldier. So with soldier, we have skill proficiencies in both athletics and intimidation. So now we're going to pause the background, and we'll go back to the class tab. Also, as a fighter, you have proficiency in both simple and martial weapons, and armor proficiency with every type of armor along with shields. So with skill proficiencies, if you see that it is highlighted, we cannot pick athletics or intimidation, so we have to pick two different ones. So for this, let's go with acrobatics and survival. Now, as a fighter, and rangers and paladins get this as well, we have a fighting style we can pick from. A fighting style is essentially what we are fairly good at. So they are usually dictate what type of weapon focus you will be using. Uh, it, with some like archery and great weapon fighting. So for this, let's do a simple one: defense. Defense, while we are wearing armor, we have a +1 bonus to AC. What that entails, I will get into in a later video when I show how to work the character sheet. And as a fighter, we have second wind, which allows us to regenerate 1d10 plus our fighter level of HP. And we have a list of class equipment that we can pick from. Alright, so that is our class. Now we get to abilities. We have 3 different ways. Standard array. I normally don't do standard because it's essentially just descending order. So you can have one at 15 and whatnot, or yeah, you have to pick one for each, so you always have like a dump stat. The dump stat is essentially a stat that you're not good at. For those who like it, we like roll for stats, where we roll 4d6 and drop the lowest number. So what you want to do is that you want to click this, and you see a bunch of dice, and you will see your stats rolled in the chat window. Not too great. Sometimes a DM will say, hey, you could roll 3 times. So you can roll twice, or 2 more times. Oh, wow, that is really bad. Huh, I need to show that to one of my players after this. Okay, that's also really bad. We have a 5. That is really bad. So after we roll our stats, we have the stat list. Now, you could, if you like the stats that you have currently rolled up, you highlight them like so. Now you can, because you can use a stat with the same number as long as you have multiple numbers. So we have our strength and dex at 13, 14 for reasons. Constitution is, or HP, usually you want it pretty high. Intelligence, we're going to be fairly stupid, so we're going to have it at a 5. So we're not going to be able to read, and we'll put our charisma at 13 and wisdom at 12. That is how you do your stats for rolling. Now, if you like your other stats, you could do custom, where you can input the stats that you have rolled. So in this case, we could do 18 for strength, 8 for dex, 8 for con, 8 for intelligence, 13 for wisdom, and 6 for charisma. And you can see your stat distributions through this. Our hit points total is here, which is how many HP we start at the beginning. And you do have recommended abilities to level up in for your class. In this case, for fighter, it's strength or dexterity, and constitution or intelligence. There's a reason why they do intelligence. Now, the third method is point buy. Now, with this, you have a set amount, you have a pool of points. In this case, it is 27. So what this means is that you have a finite resource. So we put our strength to 15. We use up 9 points. And then 14, we use up 7. 13, we're down to 6. Now, sometimes you could do like descending order. But if you don't have enough points, you will have to start taking a negative stat. In this case, the 8 wisdom and 8 charisma. For this, we will be going with point buy. We'll put 14 into strength and dex, 13 into constitution, so now our HP starting out is 11. Actually, no, let's do 15 for that. So we have 12 HP. We have 4. There we go. We have 10 wisdom and 10 charisma. Oh, wait, we don't have any intelligence. Alright, so intelligence is going to be our dump stat, so it's going to be an 8. We're not very smart. So now we go back to our background. So we have our skill proficiencies already done. We have our tool proficiencies. We are proficient in land vehicles. And we can have a gaming set proficiency. Now these tool proficiencies can be cooks utensils to wood carvers utensils to a brewer's set and whatnot. But for now we're going to go with dice. We have a military rank we can pick. You can either pick it yourself or you could roll randomly, and it will appear in the chat box as well. So we are a standard bearer. Now we have personality traits where we can, just like our specialty, we can either pick 2 or we can roll for 2. For this, we will be rolling. So we enjoy being strong and like breaking things, and we also face problems head on. A simple and direct solution is the best path to success. So that's basically what our personality is going to be. We are a bruiser. We are a meathead, which makes sense due to our very low intelligence. We're very charismatic, though. Now we have our ideal, which is basically what views that you uphold. In this case, we're going to do a random one as well. So we view our ideal is basically independence, which is chaotic. So when people follow orders blindly, they embrace a kind of tyranny. So our ideal is freedom. We don't like to be held on by rules or whatnot. Bond is the same thing, but it's usually with a person, place, or thing. In this case, someone saved our life on a battlefield, and because of that, we will never leave a friend behind. And our flaw is no one is perfect, despite how everybody tries to be. So we will obey the law even if the law causes misery. So we are, to, for lack of a better term, a stick in the mud. So if the law says to punch a person, even if that person doesn't like it, we will follow it. We also have equipment from our background, insignia of rank, trophy taken from a fallen enemy, common clothes, belt patch, and bone dice, not cards. So now we click next. Now we have our equipment. So we could do starting wealth, which is for a fighter is 5d4 times 10. So we can start with 160 gold, which is pretty good. Wow. Yeah, that is pretty good. Or, as a lot of people like to go with, class equipment. So if you notice that in our class we had a list of equipment, it is right here. So for this, for our armor, we're going to go with, our dex is higher. So let's do leather armor, and we get a longbow and 20 arrows. We'll pick up a shield as well. So that is +2 to our AC. And we're a bit of strength persons. Let's go with... Let's do a war pick. I rather see war picks used. And because of this, we can pick up some bone dice as well. Because we could pick either bone dice or a deck of cards. There's also a Explorers or Dungeoners pack. Unfortunately, they do not detail them here in thing in this in a character creation, but there is a list some on D&D Beyond that will tell you. So because we are a fighter, fighters do not have spells. So we don't pick any spells. We do get a cantrip free of charge due to our subrace. Feats usually happen at level 4, 8, and 12. So we don't have any feats, but some DMs will, like me, will give feats depending on what happens. So now here's our description. We must name ourselves. So because tieflings usually do human names, or if you look over here, you can see tiefling names fall into 3 broad categories. Some names are derived from the infernal language, or so you have infernal names, or you have virtue names, which is the character that I play in a game for Ramen Frostmania. Her name is Bliss. So we're going to go with a virtue name, and we're going to say Creed. Sounds really cool. Tieflings mature same rate of humans, but live a few years longer. So we'll go with a nice even 30. For height, I usually tend to be like more rounded, so 5 foot, 6 foot. Weight probably about 120 pounds. Eyes, let's go with green. Hair, Truthfully, I personally like white hair, but that's just me. It's my friends like, as one of my friends like to tease me about it. But this is a guy. This Creed is a male. They don't have gender here, but they do on the character sheet. Let's follow it up with green. Green eyes, green hair, and now we have our skin tone. So tieflings are typically red or pink. Uh, Case in point, this one is kind of pale purple. So they can be any color you want, truthfully, but most of the time they're a type of pale red or pink. So we'll go with black skin, because black and green is cool. So now we have our review. Make sure everything is fine. If it is not fine, it will appear red. Um, Case in point, say that we don't have this done. And if you go, it will be here. Turn to abilities. And now we click apply changes. And voila, we have made our character. So with that, I will start recording the second video. Thank you all for coming to this. I will be putting this on my YouTube. And I hope this helps people. Bye bye.